Hey guys, my name is Grant, and today we're going to be talking about apologetics and why this weird little word, which actually doesn't have anything to do with apologizing, should be important to you as a Christian. Apologetics comes from the word apologia. In the Greek legal system, when someone was being prosecuted for a crime, the prosecutor would offer a kategoria, or reasons why the accused should be punished. The defendant would then offer what they would call an apologia, or a defense. Now, apologetics for us is not a defense in that sense, but rather it's a word we use for defending or offering justification for something like faith in God. How you could define it more practically, at least for our purposes, would be apologetics is offering good answers for tough questions. Now, apologetics isn't always about answering tough questions directly, but when someone wants to challenge an idea like having faith in God, they usually put it in a question form, such as, how can you believe in God when science has proved that God doesn't exist? Or, how can you believe the Bible when we know evolution is true? These are very basic elementary examples, but I'm sure you get the point. In this series, these are the kind of questions we're going to be focusing on. But first, I'd like to lay a foundation for those of you who are a little bit skeptical about whether apologetics is important to your Christian faith. 1 Peter 3:15 through 16 tells us this: "In your hearts, honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect." Here, Peter tells his readers to be prepared to give a defense for the hope that is in them, and we know that that hope is faith in Jesus Christ. And then he instructs them to do so with gentleness and respect. This is really what apologetics is all about. Now, you might be asking, well, can I just believe, or can I just share my story or testimony? And the answer is, of course, yes. Sometimes sharing the story of how we came to faith in Jesus can be the most powerful argument we could possibly make. But let me ask you this. Say someone wanted to tell you about an experience with something that you didn't believe in, like aliens or Santa Claus. Even if you could tell that they really believed what they were telling you, you would probably need a little bit something more than just their story about it. They would need to appeal to your reason, or in other words, they would need to use things that you already believe are true to help guide you to a conclusion that you wouldn't otherwise accept. This is what Paul did on Mars Hill. Acts 17 tells us this: "So Paul, standing in the midst of the Areopagus, or Mars Hill, said, 'Men of Athens, I perceive that in every way you are very religious. For as I passed along and observed the objects of your worship, I found also an altar with this inscription, To the unknown God. What therefore you worship is unknown. This I proclaim to you.'" So Paul appeals to something they already believe in, this unknown God to which they built an altar, to help guide them to the conclusion that the God of the Bible, the creator of everything, is actually that God. And instead of worshiping him alongside all their other gods, they should worship him alone. Now, the Greeks believed in a host of many gods, so Paul appealed to them with what they already believed was true to help guide them to the ultimate truth. This is why in apologetics we appeal to things like science, reason, and philosophy, because these are things in our world that people believe are true. In the videos and podcasts to come, we will be talking about things like, how can there be right and wrong if there is no God? Or where did the universe come from? These will be appeals to things that everyone around us already believes to be true in order to guide them to this ultimate truth, that there is a God who created everything and who wants to have a relationship with every one of us. And through his Son, he made a way for us to overcome that which separates us from him, which is our sin. And that through his Holy Spirit, he wants to live in us, and that we can talk to him and hear from him daily. Now, for most Christians, everything that I just said is probably no big deal. But imagine not believing in God at all, believing that everything randomly popped into existence and is governed by nothing more than the laws of nature. or believing in a different God or a group of gods that are nothing like the God that I just described. For someone who believes those things or doesn't believe those things, that's a lot to swallow. This is why apologetics is important, because it helps us appeal to ideas and concepts that nearly everyone around us already believes are true, and helps us make the case that actually these things point to the God of the Bible. But proving God exists to other people isn't the only reason for apologetics. It's also a way that we build a foundation underneath our faith, without which our faith could come crashing down at any moment. In Matthew 7, Jesus tells a parable or a story about two houses. One house is built on a rock and the other is built on sand. When a storm comes, the house that is built on a rock is able to stand. The house that is built on sand comes crashing down. Now, in this parable, he's pointing to himself as the rock upon which we should build our lives. But the parable illustrates a universal truth. When we build our faith on the foundations of stories we heard growing up, or the fact that our parents believed in Jesus, or maybe a handful of experiences that we've had, when storms come, our faith is liable to come crashing down. Many times people believe their faith in Jesus is rock solid until an unexpected question comes their way. Maybe it's something that they didn't know was in the Bible, or maybe it's about a apparent contradiction in Jesus' teachings, or maybe it's a question that comes internally from a tragedy that they encounter. My hope is to prepare you with good answers for tough questions, whether they come from outside or inside. Through this series, I will be trying not only to introduce you to the foundational concepts of apologetics, but also to resources that will help deepen your understanding of these concepts. If this is something that you're interested in, I would encourage you to like and subscribe to this channel and maybe share it with someone else you think could use this type of thing. And ultimately, go with me on this journey to find good answers for tough questions.